All right, welcome to the next video in our series. Today we're going to be talking about inheritance. We want to know, what is inheritance? Why is it useful? How is it a tool for reusing code? What's the syntax to take advantage of inheritance? And what vocabulary do we need to know to be able to use it effectively? All right, so let's suppose I want to create a brand new class. So I am working in Eclipse now, and we say File, New Class, and I want to make a class called Animal. Animal is going to be fairly basic. We know that these new helper classes that we define are comprised of state, which are the fields or variables owned by our animal objects. And then we also have what's called behavior, which is going to be the methods. These are the actions that our helper objects can take. So if I think about an animal, generically, what is it that an animal might be useful to do? Well, it might have something like a name, and perhaps I'll give it another trait. We'll give it a behavior. I'm going to give it a method called eat, and when it eats, it's going to print out the word, it's going to print out the word yum. Okay. So these are what basic animals are, right? And whenever I make a new animal object, it's got a name and it can say yum. Whenever I'm working with a helper class, I try to keep it on the screen the same time that I'm dealing with the client class. I'm going to go ahead and make my client class called inheritance demo. So we should be able to see our helper code, helper object code. We should be able to see the client code. Okay. So let's go ahead and make ourselves a main method because we're in the client class. So this is where we're going to put a main method. All right, and if I want to make an animal object, I can do so. I can say animal owl equals new animal. And there it is. It's a new animal object. Even though I did not define a constructor, we recall that in the absence of one that I've defined, Java will provide one for me. So I'm able to say new animal, provide no arguments for the constructor. It creates this object. All right, so what can owl do? Owl can have a name, perhaps Albert's name, which has got to be a string. It could be Albert, or Albie, in honor of a famous old student of mine. Owl.name is Albie, and then perhaps we could say owl.eat. Oh, not ear, eat. Okay. And so then maybe we would say something to the effect of, in our main method, we might say that al.name plus al.eat, let's see here, al.name, we'll print out the name and then we'll ask it to eat. So what does that do? That creates Albie, and then the Albie object eats and it says yum. Okay, great. So this is how to create a new object, access its state, access its behavior. Well, what if I decide that I want another class, another helper, and I want it to be really similar to animal? In fact, I want to make a class called dog, and I want dogs to be able to have a name. I want dogs to be able to eat, but I also want dogs to be able to bark. I want to be able to call a bark method that makes them say woof to the console. Well, one option I have is I could create a brand new class. I could call it dog, and I could retype out all that stuff, but that seems like a bad use of my time. There's got to be a better way, and so there is. We're going to use something called inheritance. So let's go ahead and make another new class. I'm going to make this class called dog. Maybe. Oh, does this already exist? Dog. Oh, of course it does. How about cat? Actually, you know what? I'm going to get rid of this dog so that I can do this example. All right. File, new class, dog. Source for name is empty. Oh, of course. Dog. All right, there we go. So here I have dog, and I'm going to let dog cover up my client class for a minute just by comparison. So I could, if I really wanted to, I could copy, paste, add all of this behavior in. So your Control-Shift-F, is that going to work? Yeah, there it goes. But here's the problem. If I want to make a change in animal, I'd have to then go over and make a change in dog, right? Because I want animal and dog to behave similarly. So now I'm making myself this double work, right? I want dog to be like animal. It's just going to be a little bit different. Well, anytime I change animal, I'm also going to have to change dog. And imagine I make a bunch of classes similar to animal, but not exactly the same. I make cat, I make bear, I make fish, right? So the way to accomplish this is I'm not going to copy paste my code. I'm going to use a special keyword called extends, extends, is that right? Animal. Let's see if I can get this. Yeah. So here's what's cool. Just by having said extends animal, I used something called inheritance. So what are we doing here? Well, let's make sure we designate dog is also a helper. It's not the client. It's not containing my main method. And like animal, it is going to be taking advantage of inheritance in one way or another. It's going to be a part of what we call an inheritance hierarchy. So we would say that dog becomes the subclass, or more informally, we might say it's the child. And animal, we would say, is the superclass, and it is the parent. And in inheritance, we say that subclasses receive all state and behavior from their parent. There is one exception, excluding constructors. And we're going to talk about inheritance and constructors in a different video, not this one. All right, so what does that mean? I'm going to go ahead and I'll put dog down here. I've got animal up there. I've got nothing in the dog class right now. All I've said is that it extends animal. But if I head back to my client and make sure when you're working with multiple classes in Eclipse, make sure that you give a quick Control-S, save your other classes so that when you get back to your client, it sees the most current version of that class. All right, so let's say I wanted to make a dog. Dog Dale equals new dog. Well, we knew that this would work because as soon as we defined a public class dog, we were allowed to construct new dog objects. But check this out. I can say Dale dot and look at what Eclipse does for me. It says, hey, do you want to access Dale's name? Do you want to have Dale eat? And check it out. Eclipse even says the reason you have this option is because it came from dog's parent class, right? Dog gets name from animal, dog gets eat from animal. So now Albie can eat, Dale can eat, and when we go to run our code now, we see Albie gets to say his name, Albie gets to eat, then Dale gets to eat. And if I wanted to, I could set a name for Dale. I could say Dale.name equals Dalebert. I don't know, that's not a real name, but that's what I'm going to go with right now. And so this dog class gets to function exactly like animal. But what's cool is now I can give dog its own special behavior. So I could say public void bark. And whenever a dog is asked to bark, maybe it says woof. So let's review what everybody can do. Because Dale is a dog, and dogs are going to be also animals, that means that Dale has a name given to him by the animal class. That field is given to him by the animal class. He gets the ability to eat, same as the animal class. And he also gets to bark. Now, if we look, Albie and Dale can bark. Can Albie bark? No, because Albie's an animal. He only gets what's provided for him. Dale can bark. So if I say Dale dot, look at how it says, hey, you can access name or bark or eat. Name came from animal. Bark came from dog. Eat came from animal. And so it is only Dale that can bark. So if I run my code now, it should be Albie woof. Okay. If I tried to say, hey, Al dot, notice bark does not appear here because animals are not dogs, and it is only dogs that can bark. Okay, so let's see how we're doing. So this is inheritance. It's when you ask a helper class to receive the fields, the variables, just like name, the state, and also the behavior from a parent. This is another example of code reuse. You may remember that we've had a couple of tools for code reuse already. So inheritance is what we're talking about right now. But another way to reuse code that you've already done is loops. At this point in our course, we've covered 4 kinds of loops: for loop, for each for iterating over arrays. Then there was the while loop and the do while loop. So loops are an excellent way to reuse code. And then also defining helper methods, right? If you find yourself executing similar statements over and over and over again, make a method, call that method several times, and that prevents you from reusing code. Similarly, inheritance is another tool for helping us deal with frequently reusing code. Dog, look at how much cleaner and more usable dog is. We can just say, okay, dog has all of animal stuff plus some extra things. Boom, that's what it is. We talked about the syntax. We use this extends keyword. We talked about vocabulary. Subclass and child is what dog is. Superclass and parent is what animal is. A couple of quick things I'll note. You cannot inherit from multiple classes. You may only inherit from one class. And you can inherit from a class that is a subclass. So what would that look like? Well, let's give one more example. I'm going to say file new class. I'm going to call this pug. And by the way, you can see when we fire up our new classes, I think that Eclipse gives us a way to specify any inheritance, what the superclass is right here. I'm not going to show this particular tool right now. It's a shortcut when we get very comfortable with inheritance, but we don't need to know it. But you'll notice, as suggested, all classes ultimately inherit from the big object class. That's the subject of another video. But for right now, I'm going to go ahead and say, make me a pug class. Go ahead and finish that. And right here, I can say public class pug extends dog. And so what I've really done here is I've made a new superclass. In some ways, this is the grandchild of animal. And when we ask, what can a pug do? Well, a pug can have a name because a pug is a dog and a dog is an animal. A pug can eat. When a pug eats, it says yum. And a pug can bark because a pug is a dog and all dogs can bark. And maybe we give pug its own special behavior. Maybe we say all pugs can snort. I love pugs. They make very adorable noises. Maybe they yell snort or, insert pug sounds here. And so now if I go back to this right here and I go to make a pug, pug pepper equals new pug. Okay, well, Pepper can have a name, which he got from animal. Pepper can eat, which he got from animal. Pepper can bark, which he got from dog. Pepper can snort. There it is all the way down there. Pepper can snort, which he got from pug. Pepper is the only one who can snort. Both Dale and Pepper can bark, and Al, Dale, and Pepper can all eat. And that's how inheritance works. It flows from grandparent or from parent down to its children and grandchildren. And that is a basic introduction of inheritance. Thanks for watching.